Welcome to your deep dive. We're going to dive into something kind of wild today. Like, how are these massive companies, Netflix, Tesla, Apple, even the US government, dealing with a world that's changing so fast? It's a lot, right?
It really is. It's all about agility these days, how quickly companies can adapt. Regulations, the economy, public opinion, all while trying to, invent what's next.
It's crazy. Let's start with Netflix. They're like the comeback kids nobody expected. I mean, everyone and their mom thought they'd be losing subscribers left and right, but they added 5 million last quarter. During all the Hollywood stuff, too. What's the deal with that?
Right. It makes you rethink that whole streaming playbook, doesn't it? It used to be all about churning out new shows constantly, but Netflix is saying, hold on, maybe it's about quality, about connection. They're obsessed with this idea of engagement now.
Engagement. So, like, not just getting you to sign up, but keeping you glued to the screen.
Exactly. How long you're watching, how you're interacting with their stuff. In a market where there are like a zillion streaming services, keeping people engaged is everything.
Okay, so happy customers are less likely to cancel. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But is there something more to it than that?
100%. This whole engagement thing, it shows that Netflix is thinking long term. See, an engaged audience is way more valuable than one that's just chasing the next big thing. Especially now, with so much content out there, it proves to investors that Netflix is here to stay.
Happy investors, happy Netflix. But they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, right? There's that whole thing with them exploring ads and live content. That seems like a huge shift for a company known for, binge watching.
It is a big shift. It shows how serious they are about diversifying their income, and they've admitted that ad revenue hasn't been amazing so far.
So more ads interrupting our shows.
Maybe, but there's more to it. To get advertisers excited, they're going big on live content. We're talking sports, comedy, even.
Live wrestling. Live wrestling? Seriously. What are they thinking?
Yeah.
That seems so random for Netflix.
It's actually clever. Live events create a feeling of community. Something on demand usually doesn't. It's a totally different kind of engagement. Like, it taps into that basic human need to connect with others around a shared experience.
Wow. So Netflix is going from algorithms to live wrestling. Talk about a wild ride. But let's switch gears completely here. The U.S. government's been making moves to limit China's access to those super advanced computer chips, semiconductors. Apparently, it's a huge deal in the tech world.
It's way bigger than just tech, actually. This is about global power dynamics. Semiconductors are those tiny things that power everything. Phones, laptops, even weapons systems. And they're a major source of tension between the U.S. and China right now.
Okay, explain it to me like I'm 5. Why are these chips such a big deal?
Think of them as the brains behind all our technology. Without them, our gadgets are useless. The U.S. is worried that if China gets its hands on the most advanced chips, especially the ones used in AI, it could change the balance of power, even militarily.
So it's about trust. The U.S. doesn't want these powerful chips being used against them.
Exactly. They're basically saying, this tech is too sensitive, too risky, we can't share it. They're even urging their allies to do the same, trying to build like a trusted tech club globally.
Which puts companies like Apple in a tough spot. I mean, China is a huge market for them, especially with iPhones.
Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place. Profits or national security. It's a balancing act. They have to figure out how to work with these increasingly strict rules while still making a killing in one of the world's biggest markets.
Speaking of Apple and China,
Yeah.
how's that new iPhone 16 doing over there? It's selling like crazy here, but I've heard China's a different story. What's going on?
Yeah, it's complicated. Early sales numbers look good, but there are questions about whether that'll last, and a lot of it comes down to those AI features Apple keeps hyping up.
Interesting, because Apple's going all in on AI right now.
Yeah.
Are people in China just not that into it?
It's not that simple. China has incredibly strict rules about data. Where it's stored, what foreign companies can do with it, especially when it comes to AI. Like, they require Apple to use servers physically located in China.
So the iPhone 16 they sell in China is like a dumbed-down version.
Kinda. Some AI stuff is limited or just missing entirely. And long-term, that could hurt Apple, especially if they're banking on AI to make people upgrade.
Especially with brands like Huawei and Xiaomi right there, with cheaper phones that can probably do the same AI tricks. Wait, if China's so strict about data and AI, how are these local companies offering those features?
Oh, no, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that gets to the heart of what makes the Chinese market so challenging, but also potentially rewarding.
So we've got Netflix changing how we watch TV, a global standoff over AI and chips, and Apple caught in the middle.
And it all comes back to that idea we started with, adaptation. The companies that can read the room, change their strategies, maybe even change the rules of the game altogether, those are the ones that will survive.
Right.
It's kind of wild, right? We were just talking about Netflix being all about engagement, and Apple in China is like a case study in how that plays out.
Oh, really? How so?
Okay, so some AI features are restricted on iPhones over there, right? But Apple's got that whole ecosystem, the App Store, Apple Music, all that. It's like they're creating this walled garden to keep people hooked, even if one part of the garden is, a little bare.
Right. You might not get the full AI experience on your phone, but you'll get it everywhere else.
Exactly. And get this, they could actually lean into that even more. Imagine AI-powered features made just for Chinese users, all while still working within those strict rules.
So instead of Siri playing catch-up, there's a version that's even more integrated into their lives because it's designed specifically for them.
Now you're getting it. Like AI translation that makes it easier to connect with the rest of the world, but all within Apple's own little world. The potential is huge.
So it's not just about selling a phone in China. It's about building a whole relationship.
And that's smart, especially with how unpredictable things are right now everywhere. Remember those Tesla crashes we talked about? And the government looking into their self-driving system again?
Oh, yeah. Makes you wonder if self-driving cars are further away than we thought.
For sure. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, they're looking into how Tesla's system handles tough visibility, like fog. Turns out, cameras and sensors, they don't love a good fog machine.
That's kind of freaky, not gonna lie. Self-driving cars sounded cool,
Yep.
but what if the tech just isn't there yet?
Right, is it all moving too fast? Tesla's always been about pushing the limits, sometimes maybe a little too much.
Being first, disrupting everything, that's their thing. But with something as serious as self-driving cars, maybe slow and steady wins the race.
Maybe. Look at Waymo. They're doing self-driving too, but they're way more cautious. They're all about building trust, even if it takes longer.
So instead of promising the moon right now, they're like, let's get it right in controlled situations first, like with those self-driving taxis.
Exactly. Better sensors, strict safety rules, and they're honest about what the tech can and can't do. Refreshing, isn't it?
Okay, so we've got Tesla, maybe pumping the brakes, Netflix going all in on ads and live wrestling, which is still blowing my mind, and Apple playing chess in China.
And it all goes back to that one big idea, adapt or die. The companies that can read the tea leaves, change their game plan, maybe even rewrite the rules entirely, those are the ones that win.
It's like a giant game of chess, but on a global scale. And here's the thing, it's not just these companies making moves in a vacuum. Everything they do is a reaction to us, the consumers.
100%. Our choices, what we like, what we're worried about, it all feeds into what they decide to do.
So as we get smarter, pickier, more demanding, companies have to step up their game too, or else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to something really interesting that's happening all over the tech world, this battle between innovation and regulation.
We've been talking about companies adapting, but it's not just about keeping up with the market or making us happy, right? Governments have a big say in where tech goes next.
Oh, absolutely. This whole innovation versus regulation thing, it's a huge deal right now, especially with things like data privacy and AI.
It's tough. On one hand, we want cool new tech that makes our lives better. On the other hand, we've seen what happens when things go wrong. Biased algorithms, data breaches, it makes you think twice.
No kidding. It's making companies rethink not just what they can do, but what they should do. Like with Apple and those limited AI features in China, yeah, it's because of government rules, but those rules exist because people are worried about data security and privacy. Those are big deals everywhere, not just China.
So it's like, you can't just build a cool AI feature anymore. You have to build it right. Respect privacy, earn back some trust.
Exactly. And that's not easy. But here's another thought. If companies are constantly adjusting to new rules, does that slow down innovation? Like, are we stifling progress?
Right. It's a valid question.
It is. Too many rules can definitely choke the creativity out of things, but it can also force companies to think harder, be more intentional, like build those ethical considerations, the security stuff, right into the design from day one.
So it's not innovation or regulation, it's finding that sweet spot in between.
You got it. Create a space where companies can go wild with ideas, but they're also responsible for what they create. And that takes everyone talking to each other, companies, governments, the people actually using this stuff.
It's that collaboration thing again. Netflix and advertisers, Apple working with China. It takes a village.
Doesn't it? This stuff is complicated. There's no instruction manual.
Okay, big picture time. We've covered a lot. What are the big takeaways here? What does it all mean for us regular folks just trying to keep up?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. The future isn't set in stone. It's being written right now by the choices that companies, governments, everyone is making. And a lot of those choices come down to dealing with the unknown.
Navigating uncertainty. That seems to be the theme of the day, huh?
For sure. Netflix, figuring out this whole engagement thing, Tesla and the self-driving dilemma, Apple trying to win in China. It's all about figuring things out as we go.
And that goes for all of us too, right? How do we make sense of this crazy tech world? How do we stay informed, make good decisions, maybe even have a say in where this stuff goes next?
Those are the million-dollar questions we should all be asking. And I think it starts with being curious. Pay attention, ask questions, don't be afraid to challenge how things are done.
Love that. All right, listeners, we want to hear from you. What bold moves should these companies make? What keeps you up at night when you think about the future of tech? Hit us up on social media. Let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time.